Alright, there we go. Good grief. What a pain in the butt. What a pain in the butt. Okay. Sorry about that quick echo. Just had to make sure the audio was working. Yeah, sorry for starting later than intended. I think I might have figured out what's occasionally causing that issue with my capture card. And the reason that it can't play the video from my capture card was because I didn't have my earbuds in. Because those are directly correlated to each other. Somehow. Yeah, it will not play any video capture because there's no audio found. Not audio from the capture card, audio that, like, my earbuds, like, whatever I'm using for my output speakers. If there's no output speaker selected, it does not play the video. Why does it do that? I have no idea, because that shouldn't matter. Because, again, the audio of the game and also the video of the game are not linked to my speakers directly at all. It should be able to play those with or without speakers. I wouldn't be able to hear them, but that's not the issue. So, sure, we'll go with that. That seems reasonable. The other thing that seemed reasonable, apparently, is that despite the fact that we played this, I'm actually going to be doing a new file. For one, I kind of didn't like how the commentary... There we go. Man, brain, you need to start working here. I didn't like how the commentary turned out all that much, because it was mostly just Icarus and I kind of like talking about how our days were and whatnot, because it was kind of an impromptu stream. I'm going to go ahead and get started here as well. So the thing can play. Nice little lovely intro. There we go. So I can give a little bit more like thoughts on my game, but the other reason is apparently Twitch would not let me export this. I believe the actual error message was, sorry, we are unable to export this video. Please check your settings. And that was it. I hadn't changed any of my settings specifically for XD, and it would not elaborate further. Looking online, I couldn't even find anything about it. So we're just gonna hope it doesn't happen a second time, though I don't know why it happened the first time. So that's a thing. Apparently, Twitch undervalues XD as much as most of the Pokemon fan base does, because this game's actually really good. I mean, it already killed off a couple people right there. I mean, they fell off the boat, even though they landed in the water. I don't think they're making it back. I'm pretty sure they drowned at sea, as there is no land in any direction, so they will be missed. Rest in peace to those two guys. This project is for them. Not that they'll ever know that because they're dead. But it's fine. Alright. So as you can see, we actually start the game with a level 50 Salamence, which is phenomenal because Salamence is not only one of my favorite Pokemon, it's ruthlessly strong. And while Metagross is like not a bad pick either for Gen 3, it's still not going to win this fight. We've got Earthquake. We're obviously going first because Metagross is not built for speed. This thing's going down like a ton of bricks. Sorry, Metagross. And then, of course, tragically, we find out that it was, in fact, a simulation test. And that Salamence is not the Pokemon we had. Boo, I wanted that Salamence. As it turns out, you can actually get Salamence in the game. Problem is, you get it right at the end of the game. So that's a bit of a letdown. Instead, what we start with is another good option, which is our Eevee, who's got a rash nature. Eevee is not a horrible pick. Eevee by itself, unfortunately move-wise, is not that great. It's not the best normal type in the world. But, that said, you get a very good option in how you want to raise it, and the fact you get basically, instead of 3 different picks for your starter, you technically get 5 or 6 if you wanted to keep the Eevee, but really, you're probably going to pick one of the 5. And it's a really cool idea. I really hope that they do that again. I know they did Let's Go Eevee, but I mean, like, specifically having a game like this, now that you've got more evolutions, of being like, pretty early on, here's all the stones, the evolution stones. You can have whatever Eevee evolution that you want. And now Pokemon like Flareon would actually be a bit more viable as opposed to this game where they were definitely not as viable, which is a bit of a shame. Alright, let's head to our room. This was shown in the last run-through I did this as well, but for whatever reason, I cannot find my way around this building. I don't know what it is, but man, I get lost in here like you would not believe. It's my room, but lately my kid sister has run of the place. Well, it's my room. Like, we're not even sharing a room. There's only one bed in here. There's literally no reason for her to be in here, other than to be obnoxious. Alright, so we've got our PDA. Adon was playing hide-and-seek with Jovi. Why not have a chat with him? Alright, well, let's go back upstairs. He was the dude hiding under the table. The good news is, now that I've played through this starting part, it will go a little bit faster, which will be a nice plus, because I'll at least have a general idea of where I need to go. Looking for Jovi? Yep. She was anywhere. Maybe she's gone off to Dr. Kaminko's manor. It's a big weird house southeast of here. Joey's in our game of hide and seek. What a dickish thing to do. Oh, hi. What do you want? Okay. Sure, we'll go watch TV. Oh, it just warped us there. Okay. We bring you ONBS News. Authorities have still failed to find any traces of the cargo ship SS Libra since its sudden disappearance off the coast of Gatian Port. Well, good thing I'm an Aquarius. There's been no reports of floats that indicate the ship sinking. The authorities appear mystified by the way the ship vanished like smoke. There are reports that numerous Pokemon were on board. Concern is rising over their welfare. And not the people. Well, I guess humans kind of suck, but still. Regardless, let's actually head off to Kaminko's manor. I guess we'll head downstairs. This always feels like the upstairs, or the downstairs, and the vice versa. I think that's part of what throws me off, is this feels like it's upstairs, but it's not. Can I fight against you? Yeah, there we go. Super Trainer Afford. Oh, he must be pretty super. I'll bet he's got like 6 level 100s on his team. Like, this dude's using pro strategies, and he's definitely not like a base tutorial fight at all. Yeah, as of right now, you're pretty much just going to use the same strategy. You're just going to be spamming Bite. It's the strongest move you have. Tackle does have a stab bonus, same type of attack bonus, but even with that, Bite's going to be more effective, and it's also got the chance to flinch them as well, whereas Tackle doesn't. Also, Tackle doesn't have 100% accuracy, so... I know it's 95, but Bite's 100, provided that there's been no reductions, so... Bite is just infinitely better. That said, I do recommend that you fight every trainer you come across in this game. I know some people are not super big on doing that, and at times I definitely don't blame you. It can definitely get to be a bit much. However, as you saw, our starter, while stronger than the guy we just fought, is only level 10, and particularly at the end of the game, there is a giant difficulty spike that comes... Probably 75% of the reason that the difficulty spike is big is because there's a giant increase in level. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know why they thought that was an okay thing to do, but for some reason they did, and I don't know why. It's a bit odd. Speaking of a bit odd, here's a manor with a couple little... Those aren't even really lightning rods sticking out of it, but it's not important. What is important? Wait, who goes there? Wow, and I thought I was short in this game. You must be a burglar. Chobin will put you straight, don't you move. Chobin is the name, and Chobin is the #1 assistant to Dr. Kaminko. Chobin is the only assistant, so Chobin has to be the #1 assistant. So you're the best assistant by virtue of being the only one, which also, by definition, makes you the worst one. My uncle will often say when he sees me, how is my favorite nephew on my brother's side of the family being... Or my favorite... Yeah. That said, I'm the only one, so yes, by definition, I am also his least favorite. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Well, Sunkern isn't that especially good either way, so I'm sure it's fine. Thanks for the level up, though, nerd. Jobin lost! He also lost his glasses. And as we all know, you can't see anything without your glasses. Or if you're wearing shades, you can't be seen without your glasses. Closer observation reveals that the subject is a child. Ergo, the subject is not a burglar. Jobin wishes you spoke up right away. You'll be seeing that a lot. Because pretty much every time you ever come back to this area for any reason, you're gonna get got by him because he either couldn't tell who you were, which means he needs new glasses, or forgot who you were, which means he needs a new brain. He's kind of endearing, like, in a silly, goofy way, as opposed to our sister Jovi, who basically treats you like you are the world's biggest idiot. You got lost, you don't know what you're doing, you couldn't do anything without her, you get the idea. Let the VCR roll! Man, what a time the mid-thousands were. When it was, you know... I mean, really, it was still about DVDs back then. Most people don't even use DVDs anymore. And it's less about that, now about all the streaming services. But as we know, these things are kind of cyclical in nature, because initially, you know, the idea of a streaming service is, oh, like, you don't have to go out and buy DVDs, you don't have to wait for them to appear, like, all you have to do is just go and pick whatever streaming service, Netflix, Hulu, take your pick, whatever, and just go watch it. And then, you know, the fees started getting higher, you had to start watching ads anyway, and so now ultimately it's probably better to have the DVD because you can just, you know, not deal with that. As long as you've got the DVD player, you don't have to keep renewing stuff, and you don't have to worry, provided that you don't actually physically lose it, that it'll just disappear either. The cyclical nature is always a funny thing. Alright. Please come back to the HQ lab, I need your help with something. Is it dropping off my sister so that I don't have to deal with it? Sorry, her. I mean, her, not it. I do like how you can make them sidestep out of the way. You couldn't really do that in the first game. The partner AI, which thankfully you don't see that much, like, we have Jovi as a partner a little bit at the beginning here, but it does not happen like with Rui, where you get a partner like super early and you just have them for the rest of the game. But they're a lot harder to like get stuck on walls and things like that, so they were definitely updated for sure. Yeah, that's right. You left your friend hiding underneath a table. You jerk. Alright, let's go find Professor Crane. And as it turns out, as we now know, you actually aren't able to find Crane until you talk to a certain NPC, and then they will mention, oh, well, Crane was downstairs looking for you, even though he was not, in fact, downstairs. So yeah, talk to the guy in his office. The director, he went downstairs just a little while ago. Professor Crane did. You didn't bump into him? Nope, sure didn't. And lo and behold, he's magically there. He wants us to come find him, but he won't appear until we talk to a specific person. So, for those that have not played this game or played the prequel, even though it's not a direct well, no, I guess it is technically. This is a sequel to Pokemon Colosseum. This is set 5 years after the original game. The big draw, air quote, to this game, and also Colosseum by extension, is this right here, the snag machine. Rather than being able to catch wild Pokemon, which in this game, you actually can do to some extent, unlike Colosseum. But the big thing is being able to, quote-unquote, snag/steal trainers' Pokemon. There's only specific ones you can take, but you can take them away from other trainers and use them as your own. So that's sort of one of your goals of the game, as you'll find out alongside the rest of the story, is being able to go and, you know, take other Pokemon and help them and purify them and then use them on your team. It's a lot different from the typical go and get 8 gym badges and then go beat the Elite Four type of thing. There's no gym badges, there's no Elite Four in this game, nothing like that. It's very different in that regard, which nowadays doesn't seem like as big a deal with stuff like, you know, Scarlet and Violet where there's other stories going on, but bear in mind, this is well before Scarlet and Violet. This is 2005 we're talking here. Oh no, they've killed everybody outside. And then we've got these guys that are wearing like little butterfly wings, even though I think they're supposed to be bandanas and they just don't show in the front. So I'm not gonna lie, this whole scene with Crane getting captured and whatnot, I thought for absolute certain that Crane was in on it. I thought this was something that he staged specifically to make him look like he was a good guy, of like, oh, well, I'm doing all this stuff, but it's because they kidnapped me and they, like, threatened to kill me or whatever. Like, I didn't have any choice. But it was actually just all a farce of being able to get him away from the lab. Nope, he's actually totally and completely on your side. And unfortunately, Crane will not let us fight this one, so rather than doing what you're supposed to do and weakening a Pokemon before you catch it, same as you would with wild ones, they're just going to have you throw a snag ball and immediately catch it at full health. Which is a bit of a shame. So, I will admit that tutorial is not the best in the world. I almost kind of wish they'd taken a Pokemon that had, like, Endure or something and altered it to where, like, it keeps using it over and over. So that, like, even if you keep attacking it, it will survive with 1 health, so you still get the concept of lower its HP before you throw a Pokeball, but I mean, there's a couple different ways to do it. But in this case, they're like, yeah, just catch it, and they'll run off. But I will give the Grunts credit, is just because we beat them in a Pokemon battle did not mean that, like, they're not able to take the Professor. It's like, oh, my Pokemon's gone, like, it's fainted. I guess there's literally nothing I can do, even though I'm clearly, like, older, more physically fit, taller than you. Like, there's nothing I can do. I can't just continue to do what I was doing. So, that's a nice little touch. Thankfully, we'll be getting the Professor back pretty soon here. We also get a pretty cool song coming up here, so I'm actually going to be quiet and let this play here in a second. There we go. It's just a nice little touch. I just wanted to have it play for a bit. It is nice that they're able to still get stuff done here without the Professor, because, like, the other scientist is like, well, the main professor, the main director is kidnapped, there's nothing we can do, and as you'll find out here, like, all they needed was basically just the finishing touches. They were, like, 90% done, 95% done, and we're just like, well, I guess we'll just not be able to finish this. Apparently they have, like, no faith in themselves or each other. Fine, I'll go with Jovi. Again, you have to deal with her a little bit, but thankfully not too terribly much. Did it heal our Eevee by any chance? No, it did not, but we do have our Teddy Ursa with us. Well, now that we actually have a Shadow Pokemon, I'll go into a little bit more detail about how they work once we get into a proper fight here. But first, the game is actually going to give us files, which I kind of prefer, honestly, and it goes over some details of the Shadow Pokemon, and I believe once you come back, he gives you some more. But the nice thing about this, while the files, in my mind, are completely useless, They give you the files so that you can read them, but the thing is, you don't have to read them. That's the key thing, is if you already know how Shadow Pokemon work, you don't need to read those. Or if you're watching this, you can just listen to me talk while I'm also playing, rather than just, you know, looking at a screen with text and reading it to you. Like, yeah, if I wanted to read it myself, I would just do that. Like, no need to waste any time. I love how this Gatian port looks. This is one of the new areas in XD. They have some new ones, and they also revisit some old ones as well, and I love how this area looks, but I also love the sea and the seaside, so... That face is creepy! Moving on! Bonk. I didn't mention it either, but the fact that both Kamiko's assistant, Chobin, and also Jovi talk in third person, I'm kind of not keen on. I don't have a problem with it specifically, but the fact that, like, that's supposed to be a character tick for two characters, and they're, like, two of the first characters you meet is kind of weird. You think it would be, like, one at the beginning and one towards the end. I want it! I want the Zangoose! Yeah, so for those who don't know, when we last played this, we played this on the 9th of March, which is Zangoose Day. But tragically, the game knows that Zangoose actually is my favorite Pokemon of all time. Yes. Which I know is not a normal pick, but he is my favorite and I adore him. And tragically, you're not able to capture Zangoose for a long, long while, despite the fact that it is in fact a Shadow Pokemon, as you will see here. Oh, it's actually not going to show it. Well, I think it might on the health bar, because it's purple. Yeah, so it is a Shadow Pokemon, but as of right now, that guy just completely and utterly destroyed it. I will see justice done for you, Zangoose, once I can finally catch you. But tragically, I cannot do that right now. But one day, I will get that Zangoose. This wouldn't have seemed like a big deal at the time to anybody that wasn't a big fan of Zangoose, but up until Scarlet and Violet, this was one of only 2 games where you could catch Zangoose. It was this and Pokemon Ruby. It was an exclusive to Ruby. No other game could you catch it. Sure, you could trade it, but actually, like, being able to catch it, this was one of 2 games that you could catch it in. Alright, so now that those guys are clearly evil, but they did something nice to make them seem like they were on your side, let's actually go with what we were doing. I think first we're actually going to go ahead and do the little story beats here, because that will make Jovi leave. And without Jovi there, the world's just a better place. Let's be honest here. Also, there's this weird little story beat that I don't think ever comes to anything other than, like, getting an item from him. I think it's the amulet coin later on. It's good to know, with my twig arms and twig torso, that apparently I'm Jovi's assistant slash muscle here. Alright, so they're going to go off to their house, which is that building that I almost went into. But for now, again, let's just focus on what we actually need to get done. I don't think there's anything in here right now. Oh, this is where they live. Okay, I thought it was a different building. Well, the point is, we'll explore around when Jovi's gone, because, you know, like, whenever you're exploring like that as a kid, you do it to have fun. You don't bring your kid sister along for that kind of thing. It's just not as fun. Hi, did you want something here? The shopkeeper's out right now. He said something about having to go to Dr. Kim. What was it now? Well, to that doctor's manners where he went. He said his son Pearl will be back from repairing the rotating bridges, so I'm supposed to mind the shop till then. But I don't know where anything is, or how to ring up a cell, or anything. I have no clue what to do. I suppose it doesn't really matter, though. It's really quiet here. Getting awful bored, really. How about you help me while, if you like, how about you help me while some time away? That was a weird way to phrase that. Got a tale to tell that you might find interesting. When I was younger, I sailed all the world's seas. Our world is huge and it's full of incredible profusion of Pokemon. There's one that I found to be the most interesting is Eevee. Eevee is quite a unique Pokemon. It can evolve into 5. Remember, at the time, 5. I know that's wrong now, but this is 2005. Kinds of Pokemon, you see. When I sailed, I studied Eevee quite exhaustively. As a result, I obtained 5 items that are the keys to Eevee's evolution. You say you're raising an Eevee? What a fortuitous coincidence. This must have been meant to happen. Let me commemorate this occasion by giving you one of these 5 items. There's no need to be shy. Go ahead, choose one. So this is how you pick your starter, which is, again, a really cool idea. You don't need the happiness evolutions for Umbreon or Espeon. You just straight up have all of the stones and or shards necessary to evolve them right after you pick this item. So you've got Vaporeon, which is primarily a HP well, not super defensive, but more HP than anything. Not a horrible choice, but the big problem is a lot of water types rely on using Surf. In this era, Surf hits in double battle. It does not hit your ally, but it hits both of your enemies. Surf cannot be obtained via TM or via level up as Vaporeon, so bear that in mind if you're picking Vaporeon. Jolteon is another good choice with very high speed, so it is almost always going to be going first. It is very much a sweeper, high damage, high speed. Flareon, unfortunately, is completely useless. This is still back at the point where, because it is fire, it is always going to be a special move regardless of what the actual move looks like, and Flareon specializes in physical attack rather than special. This is the one of the 5 I absolutely do not recommend. Umbreon is probably my favorite looking. I adore Umbreon and I think it's phenomenal. It is a very good defensive wall despite not looking it. If you need a good defensive Pokemon, this will do incredibly well for you. Since it's a dark type, it will get a lot of moves of the ability to, like, Confused. As you can see, its ability here is to pass on status problems. It's very good at basically stalling for as long as you need while afflicting status ailments if you need to do that. And Espeon is another special sweeper, like Jolteon is. It will sacrifice a little bit of speed for a little bit more damage, though it will take a while to start getting those good moves. I already used an Umbreon and an Espeon before in my playthrough of Colosseum. If you haven't seen that, check out the archive page. So I am going to pass on using both of these. As I've already explained, Flareon's not really a good choice, and unlike most of apparently every single Pokemon trainer right now, I'm not super horny for Vaporeon, so I'm going to be going with Jolteon. The other upside to using Jolteon is because it can learn Thunder Wave pretty quickly, it will make capturing other Shadow Pokemon a lot easier. Joey wants something too. No. Alright. Let's go ahead and evolve our Eevee. I will admit, while I like Eevee, the sprite on this is not the best in the world. It's not that great. It looks much better as a Jolteon. Just something about the face or like the top of the hair on the head or the fur on the head looks a bit off. But yeah, there's no reason to not level it up right now. I know with some Pokemon it's better to wait a little while. Not so with the evolutions. So whatever you pick, you might as well just go ahead and use it right then and there. Alright. Now that we've taken care of that, before I explore around here again, I'm going to go with the story beats. Which means we'll go and find Mr. Purr here, who looks like he just rolled up out of a Tony Hawk game or something. But apparently he is good at his job, despite the fact he is wearing purple pants and only one suspender on with one suspender off, and then wearing that, like, faded yellow undershirt with a horizontally striped blue shirt. Like, and then he's wearing, like, the Rex Raptor beanie from, like, the original Yu-Gi-Oh! If anybody remembers Rex Raptor. Like, this guy's weird. But the point is, he can give us what we actually need in order to progress. So, sorry we're out. A machine part, you said, right? He also kind of looks like Lars a little bit from Rocket Power. I'm just making all the vague references. Here it is, here it is. This is it. Here we go. Got the machine part. It's a rare item, that machine part. Took a while to get the order in. How's your director, Professor Crane, doing? He's dead. Except, not actually, he just got captured. Been through something like that before. Who'd have thought it'd happen again? I hope the lab director's around. I'll be rooting for you, so don't give up. Yeah, you may or may not remember, but Purr was actually one of the underground kids from the first game in Colosseum. He was a lot smaller back then, but the name might give away the fact that he has in fact been through the song and dance before. Alright, so now that we've gotten that taken care of, if we go over here and talk to this guy, and I stop mashing the button too quickly. No. Yep. You can battle this guy, not only for the experience, but he'll also give you an item as well. So let's take him on. Plus, this is our first battle actually getting to see a Shadow Pokemon, so I'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get out of tutorial mode here. But again, there's only 2 games like this, so you might not have seen this before, or for anybody watching on the archive. As you can see, with Teddy Ursa, it has obviously the purple outline for one, but it also has a purple bar at the bottom, and part of that went away when we sent it out. A Shadow Pokemon, air quotes, has the door artificially closed to its heart, which is a nice way of saying it will not have its typical moveset that it should at this point in the game. As you saw, it had stuff like Shadow Rush, Shadow Blitz, that kind of thing. And these moves will always be super effective type on any Pokemon that is not a Shadow Pokemon, but they will be not very effective on a Pokemon that is also a Shadow Pokemon like them. So there's a little bit of figuring out what will and won't work there. So the idea is to get that gauge brought all the way down to where the purple bar is no longer there, and then it will be able to be purified later on. Being purified will give it its normal moves. Some of its normal moves back. You get the other moves actually by lowering that gauge. As you lower the gauge, you get more moves, as well as more info on the Pokemon, such as its nature. There are several different ways to lower that gauge. The first, we get TM45, which is Attract. You can lower that gauge by sending it out in battle. You can also walk around with it. Walking around with it will cause it to naturally lower as well. Does it go all the way across? I don't think that person gave us anything from what I remember from when we last played, so I'm not going to worry about that just yet. By walking around with it, it can also go into, I believe it's called Rage Mode or Hyper Mode. It was Hyper Mode in Colosseum, but I think the name for it has changed. Where the aura around it will turn red and you have to call it because it won't fully obey you at that point. And by calling it and snapping it out of that cycle, it will also lose part of its gauge. Later on, you'll get a clone case and you can use different scents on the Pokemon, SCENTS, and that will lower its gauge. What works and doesn't work actually depends on the nature of the Pokemon. So for one Pokemon you have, walking around might be the most effective way to lower that gauge. For another one, it might be using the scents. It honestly just depends. And the downside of it being based on the nature means that you, unfortunately, probably won't know until it's a little late, but you get the nature back, I believe, after the second bar has disappeared. I could be wrong about that, but that sounds right. Regardless, for the time being, pretty much every Shadow Pokemon you get is going to get put into your party. You don't really need to be like switching them out and around too much in terms of whenever an actual battle is going on, but once it's purified, you should probably keep it out of the battle, because one of the other things that you might have noticed is that Shadow Pokemon do not gain experience. However, once they're purified, they will get all the experience that they have gotten through previous battles. So you do get it, you just don't get it right away. Which, it's nice that you do get it, but just bear in mind that, like, if you purify one late, like if you purify this Teddy Ursa, you're working on the gauge super late in the game, because it's only level 11 and will not be getting experience, it will be very easy for it to get killed in battle, so you have to watch out for that. Right, now that we've gotten through all the tutorial junk, let's see if we can catch a Ladybug. Unfortunately, Ladybug's not really that great, so I don't really recommend Ladybug. Again, like, you're kind of just in a stage of use whatever you got at this point, so, I mean, if you've got it, great, go for it. If you don't want to use it later on, that's completely understandable. Pretty much the only upside it has is, like most bug types, it evolves pretty early on into Lydian, which I believe is at level 18, but again, probably not one I'd recommend. Teddy Ursa can be. It's not the best thing in the world again. But once it evolves into Ursaring, it becomes a pretty good physical attacker and also gets Intimidate to lower its opponent's attack stat. So it can be a little bit better. It's definitely better than Ladybug is. The big issue that you'll run into in both this game and Colosseum is that you have a very, very, very limited selection of what Pokemon you can and cannot use. So, normally where I might say something is like, oh yeah, there's way better of, like, ice types or whatever. In this game, you might only get, like, a couple options. In the previous game in Colosseum, if you wanted a ghost type, you would have to take Misdreavus, as it was the only ghost type in the game. So even if you're not super big on it, and it could not evolve at that point in the series, it was Misdreavus or bust if you really wanted a ghost type. There was no way to get anything else. A bit unfortunate that, but, you know, that's kind of part of the game. That said, you'll see a fair bit more Gen 3 Pokemon in this game than you would Colosseum. Colosseum had primarily Gen 2 with occasionally Gen 3 sprinkled in here and there. This game obviously came later in the life cycle, and so there's actually a couple of Gen 4 Pokemon that you can spot in this game before Gen 4 officially became a thing, which is kind of cool. Yeah, he doesn't actually get anything. There is a trainer up here with the Shadow Pokemon, so bear that in mind. One of the first upsides that we can talk about that this game has over Colosseum is normally you had to use the PC to save. This game, whenever you like, anywhere you like. You can just go and save. Infinitely better. There we go. Progress has been saved. And this is the trainer right here that's got your Shadow Pokemon. Somebody give me a wickedly tough Pokemon, I'll test it out on you. Bodybuilder killing. Killing in the name of. About an hour before we got started here, I went and rewatched the mashup of Killing in the Name of and 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. It sounds like they wouldn't mix together if you know both of those songs. Actually works really well. I believe it's called Rage Against Vanessa Carlton if you want to look it up. Or you can just put in, like, you know, Rage Against the Machine Vanessa Carlton. You'll probably find it that way too. But yeah, it's pretty dang good, I'm not gonna lie. It definitely falls under those songs that should not work together, but somehow do. Alright, so now we're down to just Poochyena. Poochyena's okay. If you picked Umbreon, there's no reason to go with Poochyena. Like, I'm sorry to say. Umbreon's gonna serve you much, much better. I'm going to go ahead and use Lick here in order to try and paralyze. This is another reason you might want Teddy Ursa. As you can see, it got Lick back since that bar went down by 1. And Lick doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does have the chance to paralyze, which will help making catch Shadow Pokemon a lot easier. So at this point, since he's at pretty low health, I'm going to be using Jolteon's turn to try and catch it. And provided that I don't catch it, I'm going to use Lick again and just keep doing that until either it's caught, it gets paralyzed, and then it's caught, or it's so low on health that I can't do that anymore. So one of the things that has also changed from Colosseum is using stuff like Shadow Rush and whatnot used to inflict self-damage on whoever used it. It was one of those, like, you know, takedown, double edge of strong attack, but it hurts the user a little bit. Which in that case, okay, fair enough, sure. But in this game, they only take that damage if they are in hyper mode or rage mode or whatever it's called at the end of their turn. Which is a nice little plus, because otherwise, just having it battle naturally, even if it was getting one-hit KO after one-hit KO on its opponents, it was still enough to where you would just slowly take chip damage. And unfortunately, there wasn't really any way around it, so it's a way to make it a little bit more cost-effective is not the right term, but a little bit more effective in general. Both of those empty, or not empty houses, but houses out here are tragically do not seem to give you anything. It's a bit weird the way this is set up, because they were talking about, if you saw the text when I sped it by earlier, about like, oh man, it's a really good thing that the bridges are fixed because that enables ships to be able to get into the harbor. Like, forget the ships, what about the poor people that are living out here on these houses that can't get out? Like, sure, you could argue, like, you know, if they were in a really dire situation that they could just jump off into the water and swim to the docks, but, like, do you see anywhere they could get up? Like, there's nowhere they could go, really. They're all, like, high areas. There's no real spot for them to crawl up. So, as they say, it truly is all about locations. For the time being, I'm just poking around and seeing what I can find in here because, looking around in this game, there's a lot of good items hidden in chests. Like, there are times where you can find multiple revives from a treasure chest. Revives, like max revives, it's kind of insane what you can just get by looking around. You saw a little bit of that whenever we were climbing through that tower, but that was all very basic stuff of like, hey, here's a paralyzed heal, like usually just status healing stuff. And probably the worst offender of that is the awakening item that we get, because you might have seen it already. There's another option in battle that's the call command, which is what you use to knock a Pokemon out of hyper mode / rage mode. Just you call them and it makes them come to their senses. But you can also use that to wake your Pokemon up, which means that awakening is completely and totally useless. There's no need to buy one. Your call command can't get locked or anything like that. So an awakening literally has no purpose whatsoever. None. I'm going to skip on the center for right now and go to the shop, because there's two things I want to show. One is, speaking of Gen 4 Pokemon... Oh, it's not here anymore. Oh, there it is. A Munchlax. Which I guess technically we did also see that. We've seen Munchlax several times before Gen 4 was officially unveiled. It was in Destiny Deoxys as well, the movie. Which I kind of want to go rewatch that one in particular. And once again, proving that occasionally talking to NPCs can come in handy, but only occasionally. The other thing is... this guy's very nervous about what he's doing. But there are tragically no Pokeballs to pick up here. If you want to pick up potions, antidotes, any of the status stuff, you can. Again, I don't really recommend it, and I'm going to go ahead and sell that Awakening because I have no use for it. Provided that you fight trainers as often as you can, though, like, you will be making bank in this game. Like, it's pretty insane how quickly you can earn money. Which is good, because money is used for a lot of good stuff later on in the game. Unlike a lot of Pokemon games where just, like, at a certain point, other than buying more Pokeballs and buying, like, your potions and whatnot, really don't need it for anything else. This game, it's got a much bigger array of things to pick up. But first, we're going to fight Mr. Flat Top here. And I don't believe this guy has any Shadow Pokemon, so we'll be spared for now. Well, I was going to say I should have used Bite, but it died in one hit anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. Another thing, more so important rather than interesting about Teddiursa is, I don't remember if it can get multiple abilities right now. I think it might have run away. But, whether it be multiple or it only has the one, it has either the guaranteed ability or the chance for an ability. Wow, thanks. You played a prank on me by challenging me to fight. It has the ability Pickup. And we got a Hyper Potion for that, which restores 200 health. I don't think we'll be using that for a while. Yep, Pickup. May pick up items. So even if you're not using Teddiursa, until you've got your team, like, fully complete, it might not be a bad idea to keep it on your team until, like, you just don't really have the space for it anymore. For that alone. Because you can just get free items out of it. Same way you could with Zigzagoon in Gen 3. When the shipping traffic's down this much, there's not much we sailormen can do and sit around and mope. Isn't that right, matey? I'd say so, matey. And everyone's scared witless going out to see yada yada yada. That's a surprise, matey. I'd say so, matey. It takes someone really rich, and I don't mean rich, but stinking rich to have a cruise that gorgeous. Do you agree, matey? I'd say so, matey. When someone's talking, you should be paying attention. Isn't that right, matey? I'd say so, matey. That's like one of the few completely optional, like, no bonus out of it, no item, no anything like that, but it's one of the ones I always take time to show off because it's really funny. Alright, so we could poke around here a little bit. Really the only thing of note, item-wise, is just down here. And what a good place to sleep here. Super Potion! Even though graphically the game's far from perfect, and bear in mind, again, this game is almost 20 years old at this point. It's 18 years old. The inside of buildings in particular in this game compared to Colosseum look way better. Like, man, they upped their game on this. These little areas just look nothing short of phenomenal. Again, mostly just flavor text in here. There's really not anything worthwhile. I think the only one that might be of note is the one right here, where Jovi can say, "Thank you, Mr. Coolman. Jovi thanks you for saving Jovi earlier." Oh, is that all? That was merely putting a fool in his place. Don't worry about it. I'm very happy that's with you. This might be the guy that gives you a ribbon for whenever you get max happiness with your Eevee. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's pretty much it for the important stuff in the port. There's not really much else, but it is pretty easy to miss those two Shadow Pokemon, in particular the Ladybug, even though it's not that great, of just, like, not spotting him, because he's kind of tucked away, so you might want to bear those in mind. The important thing, though, is we got the part and we got our Eevee evolved, which are the two biggest things to do. But if you go back to Kaminko's house, if you'll remember earlier, Per said that his grandfather was at said house, which we actually did see him earlier. But the important thing about this is... You must be another burglar. Chobin will put you straight. Don't you move. Remember how I said you'd be seeing that a lot? Yeah. You can fight this guy, like, an insane amount of times. And while he's hardly the best way to get experience in the game, early game, it is still something, and we'll take something over nothing. Plus, sending your Pokemon out into battle, again, does lower that heart gauge, so every little bit helps there. So now, instead of having one completely useless Pokemon, he has two completely useless Pokemon. Though I guess Magikarp will come in handy once it evolves, because it will eventually evolve. He'll eventually end up with a Sunflora and a Gyarados, which is a little bit better. Though to be fair, if it ended up being worse, I would be genuinely impressed. But yeah, quick way to get the heart gauge down a little bit, quick way to get a small amount of experience, and of course, a quick way to get some more money. He gives you a decent amount, all things considered. Oh, you're that boy from before. Chubin wishes you spoke up right away. You don't get anything for talking to him, but again, they'll mention it right here. He explained what happened. The HQ's lab director is Doctor. That's terrible. The modus operandi, it feels similar to the incident 5 years ago. It might be Cypher. And he'll mention just take the part to the lab. When this robo is completed, I shall become the world's most powerful man. Huh? Who are you? How long have you been there? I'm in the middle of highly important research. I'm quite busy. Now, if you'll excuse me, I ask that you refrain from disturbing me. That's a nice little line of text. I believe you can only get at that point in the game. I don't know. What Jovi likes best is Chobin's goofy glasses. These are strictly off limits. Chobin cannot function without them. Extremely absolutely not. Aw, that's so boring. Yeah, maybe you should get new ones if you can't tell that it's us from, like, less than 30 minutes ago. Which I guess technically it could be longer in-game, but, you know. Alright. More exciting sound effects, or music, rather. So yeah, a couple more memos about Shadow Pokemon. Again, I'm not going to read through them. I basically gave you the rundown already. I'd like you to read them over at least once. Nah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah. Oh well. I probably technically should have saved that guy for, or saved battling that guy for whenever I had a Shadow Pokemon so that it would work with the heart gauge, but it's not that big a deal, honestly. If you played Colosseum, you might remember how much of a headache it was to get every Shadow Pokemon purified because of how long it took to lower the heart gauge on every single Pokemon. Not so in this game. It's actually way, way faster than it was originally. Thank heavens for that. But in order to do that, we need to give them the part back. So let's do that and drop off our kid sister, hopefully to never be seen again. Was Jovi well behaved? No. There's the machine part. With this component, we get down to the finishing touches on the purified chamber. Should take this down to the purified chamber on the ground floor now. Jovi will take it. Yep, we'll absolutely trust Jovi with that. Has the heart gauge fallen to 0? No. Oh, but by the time the purified chamber is complete, the heart gauge should be down to 0. Regardless of what you say there, it will still be the same, even if you did get the gauge down to 0. If the purified chamber were ready, it could go through the ceremony there, but looks like we'll need a little bit more time to get finished. Because to that, I think your Shadow Pokemon should go through the purification ceremony using a different process. There's a village called the Gate. In the village, there's a relic stone which has the power to restore Shadow Pokemon to their natural state. It worries me a lot to send you to such a far-off place by yourself, but I think it's something that only you can do. Will you go to Agate? You bet. This was the only way to completely purify Pokemon, Shadow Pokemon, in the first game outside of using an item called the Time Flute, which there was only 3 of in the game. And I think only one of them could be obtained prior to the post-game. So, yeah, not the most effective way. Oh, I was hoping that she would be asleep again, but afraid not. If you talked to her earlier, she's asleep at the desk, and whenever you wake her up, she's like, oh, we here at this area are designed and trained to... Oh, it's just you. Alright, off to Agate, which I believe, yeah, this is our first recurring area from the last game, which I always praised very highly because, in particular, the Ori region is kind of dirty in the sense of, like, there's a lot of browns, red. There's not a lot of lush, foresty areas in Colosseum. There is more so in this game, as we saw with the actual, not center, but the... whatever it was, the HQ lab, we'll call it. So as a result, you get to see a lot more of a color palette. There's a lot more greens and blues and, like, more vibrant colors in this game, which I appreciate quite a bit. If you did play Colosseum or have played this one before, you probably also know that this is basically a town full of retirees. These are people that have... you know, they're done with their Pokemon journey, or they're done doing whatever that they've done with their lives, etc. And as a result, that means they have lots of money to take from them. But you also get battles, too, and you do need to try and get those heart gauges down. In fact, they'll actually have a couple forced battles on you to try to lower that heart gauge completely before you get to the actual relic area itself. But all the ones that are out in this main area are optional. But again, free money, free experience, free lowering of the heart gauge. There's no reason not to, really. There we go, Jolteon's at 12. What I can't tell, honestly and ultimately, is if I like the fact that... I mean, I get why. But I can't tell if it's an upside or a downside that your team starts out a lot lower level in this game than they did in Colosseum. Because your Pokemon, your Umbreon and your Espeon in the previous game, they were like mid-low to mid-20s, give or take. Oh, another battle, okay. They were like mid-low to mid-20s as opposed to getting like level 10s here, but the lowest Shadow Pokemon was like level 30 or so. By the time you could purify, your Umbreon and Espeon were probably up to that number. The lowest you could get in the game, I believe, was a non-Shadow Plusle. And then there was a Shadow Togetic at like the very end of the game that was level 20. But by the time you got there, it actually became more of a problem than anything, because as a result of that, all your Pokemon were so strong that you had to find something to not accidentally one-hit KO it, which was very easy to do. But at the same time, because your Pokemon are lower level, they also get to learn moves that otherwise you'd have to go to the move relearner for, which isn't a big deal, but it's, you know, it's a nice little bonus if nothing else. But it unfortunately does mean that you'll have to level up a tiny bit more. I mean, we've gotten 2 levels out of Jolteon thus far, and it's still about half the level that our Umbreon or Espeon would be. Ultimately, it probably doesn't matter, but it's always an interesting thought that weighs on my mind for some reason whenever I think about loading up this game. I'm like, but do I really want to start with just 1 level 10 when I could start with 2 that are almost at 30? I don't know why that always strikes me as much as it does, but for some reason I think about that quite a bit when playing this game. Yep, looking for a battle. I'm going to show it off here in a second, but if you would like to go ahead and pick up Thunder Wave for your Jolteon, provided you're using a Jolteon, you can do that right now in this village. There's not going to be any Shadow Pokemon here, so that part you will not have to worry about. If you're thinking about using it for that, you're going to be fine. We'll go with Bite. And now, as you can see, we have Metal Claw, but I'm going to stick with Shadow Blitz. Having the super effectiveness on anything is really nice, especially if you're not good with your types. You can just use that over and over, and like, as long as it hits a non-Shadow Pokemon, you're going to get super effective every time. Nice under the legs shot there, that's nice. Thanks for showing that off. It's a really small touch, but I also do like the fact that whenever both you and your opponent take any sort of damage, we might be able to see it right here on their Pokemon, they react to it, or whenever they faint, they react to it, which is a really cool touch. A lot of the time you can only see it when they're down to 1 because it moves the Pokemon left closer to the center most of the time. Because otherwise you get shots like that where you just can't see the trainer. But I always thought that was a really nice touch, and as slow as the battling is in Colosseum because everything is double battles, it feels like it does go faster in this game. Not by a lot, but enough that it's noticeable. It's probably a case if they upped everything by, like, a small amount. We're talking, like, maybe 5%, like, with the text, with the animations, all that stuff, but combining all those things together to up the speed does make a difference. So yeah, this is where you need to go and get Thunder Wave. It's just off the side here. This is more noticeable in this game than it was Colosseum. It was, at least in terms of the camera, a little bit better hidden. But it also had better stuff. This one's got a Super Potion, a Pokeball, and the Teacher Lady. So yeah, you can get Mimic, Thunder Wave, or Seismic Toss, which is based on the level of your Pokemon. The only one I'm going to bother with is Thunder Wave for obvious reasons. So teach me Thunder Wave, and I'm going to get rid of Tail Whip. If I'm going to, usually with that kind of move, if I'm going to waste a turn on a non-attack move, and yes, I am one of those, but like if I'm going to use a non-attack move, and it's typically going to be to prevent a Shadow Pokemon from getting KO'd, I would probably sooner lower its accuracy than I would lower its defense. Because if I lower its defense, then it's going to make it more susceptible to getting beaten when I don't want it to. So I'll stick with the accuracy. There's not going to be any trainers inside that are going to fight you. They're all going to be out here, so just bear that in mind. But despite the fact that these are, like, retirees, and some of them actively say, like, yeah, I went on, like, a Pokemon adventure years ago, apparently they don't have any of their strong Pokemon left. Or they regressed, or whatever. It's like, you mean to tell me you went on an entire journey with Pokemon, and you had 2 level 7s, and that's it? You, like, went on a huge journey, beat several gyms, like, all this stuff, with 2 level 7s. I highly doubt that. Like, even if you're just battling what you come across in wild grass and from other trainers because it's necessary to do so, your Pokemon are probably higher than that level-wise by the time you get to the first gym. Reverse mode, that's what it's called, not rage mode. Okay. Well, now you get to see what that looks like at least. It's in reverse mode, so we're going to go ahead and call. And call will always be the first thing on the list, I think, with the exception of maybe using an item. But yeah, do take the turn to call because it lowers the gauge. It's ultimately just going to be easier because, again, they won't obey you, and I believe also you actually can't use items on them while they're in reverse mode either. So it can be a hassle where you don't necessarily think it would be. Yep, just taking a quick look to see if there's any items there. Here's your Pokemon Mart, in case you need it. Anybody got any items for me? Guess not. I don't think they're here yet. But they'll mention it pretty soon that you are able to buy Pokeballs here. So if you're running low, feel like you might need more, that would be the first place to go. Yeah, we're looking for Egan. He'll show up whenever we go to his house and talk to his wife. Otherwise, he's down by where the actual relic is, if you remember that from Colosseum or a previous playthrough of this game. So, there's a dude guarding the entrance there that won't let you in until you've done that, but since we'll have to do that anyway, I'm saving that for last. Oh yeah, and we talked about this in the previous one too. In Colosseum, that woman that we're fighting right now, I think has a Mightyena rather than a Poochyena. But she kind of implies that she's, like, with it. As in, like, with the Poochyena. Hint, hint. Not so subtle. And now she's got a Poochyena. So that's a little unnerving. Anyway, moving swiftly on from that discussion. Maybe we should do an After Dark stream at some point. Discuss more lewd things. I'll make the occasional dirty joke, but usually I keep it relatively clean compared to what I could be doing. But yeah, maybe that'll come up at some point. I only had that idea just now, but yeah, I'll think about it. In there, I'm not going to bother going in there, but there is a name raider. So if you don't like your de facto names, because even Eevee you can't immediately nickname, I don't think, you can go in there and change them as needed. That guy from Colosseum is still there. He'll give you a berry every now and again. I believe it's every 24 hours on the GameCube clock. Or in this case, the Wii clock, but, you know, same difference. So if you've, booted the game up and it's been a while, maybe just check in with him, get a free berry. If you don't have any good items to have on your Pokemon for hold items, that's always a good option. Will you fight me? Nope. And with that, we have looped around completely, so let's go heal first. So we haven't done that in a hot minute. Well, actually, you know what? We look fine. I'm not going to waste the time showing that animation. I'm not going to be sitting there the whole time. Let's get going. Let's make some progress. Theoretically, I'd like to at least get to where we were in the last stream, but we'll see. I've got a little bit less time. I got basically like 2.5 hours left. So we'll find out. Yeah, so apparently they contacted him, and so they already know the whole situation. Yep, I'm here. So he set up several battles for us to lower the heart gauge even further on our Pokemon. So that being the case, actually I do need to go in here because I think there's somebody in here that gives you the clone case. No, there is somebody that does it. Oh no, they actually end up being in that trial. Air quote. I'm using the term trial loosely here. Trial is in, like, you do 3 battles. Yeah, not very much of a trial, but... That said, speaking of Shadow Pokemon, do we have the nature? Hardy nature. Interesting. And the gauge is almost empty. I'm sure it's probably possible, in particular if you get a Teddiursa with a nature that does not lower the gauge much by sending them out or walking around with them. It probably is possible to get through only required battles and not have your Shadow Pokemon ready to go. But that's probably not going to happen. If you have been doing all of the battles, it definitely will not be happening, but it's possible. Zigzagoon and Numa. Zigzagoon. Another good pickup user, and also the one that whenever I tell people Zangoose is my favorite, that's the Pokemon they think of. They're like, oh yeah, I kept one as an HM slave. I'm like, you're thinking of Zigzagoon, not Zangoose. I actually met somebody a couple weeks ago that had that as their favorite Pokemon, as Zangoose as well, not Zigzagoon. And I was like, oh, please don't tell me the wrong, and I'm going to have to go break their heart. And they actually did know the correct one and said the correct one. And I was like, oh, you actually do like the same Pokemon as me, rather than just like, oh, I like this Pokemon so much, and then it turns out it wasn't the Pokemon you were thinking of. Like Bite. It's another nice upside to Jolteon. It's so fast, it's almost always going to be going first. Provided it doesn't have a status, there are very few things that are going to outspeed it. I think this should probably be the last battle I need to get the heart gauge down to 0, and if that's the case, I'll swap out having Teddiursa in the front in favor of a different Pokemon. We'll see how the bar looks here, though. Ooh, I think that is enough. You can also see what I mean, like, not so much about the crazy difficulty spike or anything, of like, I've been doing every battle, and the Pokemon have gone up about 3 levels, and I've gone up about 3 levels, and that's doing every battle. Had I not done every battle, these, like, I'd probably be closer, my guess is level 11, so if you're one of those people that likes to one-shot everything, it might be a little difficult to do so if you have not been gaining those levels. And we're only, like, an hour into the game. So just bear in mind, like, some games reward you heavily for battling. This one doesn't so much reward you for doing all the battles as it does punish you for not doing all the battles. It prefers the stick to the carrot, I guess, as it were. 800 for winning, wow. Yep, there we go. Teddiursa can now be purified. This is another nice little small feature that is very nice in Colosseum versus... or very nice in XD versus Colosseum. In Colosseum, that little notification didn't pop up. You just needed to pay attention to the gauge. Be it by checking your menu or checking in battle. And at this point, like, anything, whether, even if you're walking, like, whenever that gauge hits 0 in any context, it will immediately let you know, like, hey, this Pokemon can now be purified. It is a very, very nice touch, and a very good quality of life feature that I'm willing to bet most people probably didn't think of initially. Ladybug definitely appears to be one of the ones of walking with it. Does a lot for the heart gauge, though, because we haven't used it at all, and it's almost lost 2 of the 5 bars from just walking around with it. We have not had it for that long. It does have Aerial Ace, which is kind of nice, but as you can see there, despite the fact that not only does it have 60 power, and it also had super effectiveness on it, it still did not kill that Cacnea in 1 hit, so... yeah, Ladybug's not phenomenal. I will not be using it. There's only 3 that I have set for sure that I'm going to use. Jolteon being one, obviously, and Zangoose being one, obviously. but we won't have Zangoose for a while. So I might just be kind of watching as time goes on and figuring out, like, might want to use this, might not want to use this. We'll kind of just see how things go. Burn heal right after fighting a Slugma, how nice. I think those have flame bodies, so they have the potential to burn you if you come into contact with them. Full heal, very nice. The legendary trainer, Egan beat me, but only him. I'm Kron. You mean Kron? It's the mix between Kron from Fire Emblem and Tron from, you know, the movie Tron. Both movies Tron. A little bit, most people probably haven't seen the original. I'm in that weird category of I've seen the original, I actually didn't see the newer one of the two. Just never got around to it. But I remember specifically watching the original with a friend of mine, her mom, and then also my mom. No, we were not dating or anything like that. Just good friends that were in middle school. And we had to explain a lot of video game tropes to them, like they didn't get the whole, like, why is that guy flashing red? Well, he's about to die, that's why he's flashing red. The old meme of sure grandpa / grandma, let's get you to bed. Let's go after the Shroomish, because I don't like Effect Spore, even though it's probably going to damage me here. Well, not damage me, but give me a status effect. No, I actually avoided it. Okay, that works. Bye, Shroomish. Thankfully, we avoided Effect Spore, which is nice. Admittedly, I've always found it a bit annoying of, like, fire Pokemon can't get burned, poison Pokemon can't get poisoned, but electric Pokemon can get paralyzed? Like, that seems counterintuitive, but, you know. Okay, sure. And there we go. The secret hidden fourth trainer, because I said there was 3, is defeated. And we also get the cologne case. It's a case to hold the scents for giving cologne massages to Pokemon. I'm told the scented cologne massage helps ease open the hearts of Pokemon. Rub down your Pokemon gently when you use that cologne case. Speaking of After Dark stuff, yikes. So hasty nature on Ladybug, which means it's speed bit. Wow, that attack stat. Yo, yikes. Holy moly, 9? Ugh. It's opposed to 26 here, but like, dang, dude. I knew it would be low, but I didn't think it would be that low. Wow. Hi, Egan. You just magically appeared. This will be their first battle in 5 years. Now, for those that didn't play Colosseum, this guy's Pikachu at the time was level 50. It lost to a Hitmontop that was a Shadow Hitmontop that it probably really had no business losing to, but it did, because the story required it to. Apparently Pikachu in its years has not gotten better with age, I believe is the polite way to put it, as it is now only level 12 instead of level 50. So yeah, needless to say, obviously they had to make it easier, but this is not too terribly tough. He didn't even get to attack me because he got flinched by Jolteon's bite. So that's all she wrote for Pikachu. And now Ladybug's going to be stuck in reverse mode, but that's fine because we wouldn't have been able to purify it anyway. Because I believe that's another downside to being in reverse mode, is I think even if the heart gauge is 0, you cannot purify a Pokemon while it's stuck in reverse mode. So, bear that in mind. Pika Pika. Yep, one of them there Pika Pikas. So yep, you can go up to the stone, and if there's a Pokemon that can open the door to its heart, like the Teddiursa, you can purify it here. Again, you had to do this in Colosseum other than using the Time Flutes, but since there's only 3 of them, you were coming back here a fair bit. Basically, like, load up a team of 6 in your party that are all ready to be purified, take them all, purify them all, rinse, lather, repeat as needed. So So it regains the move Return, which is a normal type that does more damage the more the Pokemon likes you. And it also gets Refresh as well, because remember it had multiple Shadow moves. This will eliminate all Shadow moves in favor of giving them their normal stats back. And while it would be a bit of a shame to... Yeah, sure, we'll go ahead and replace that. I don't really care about Refresh. I'll pass on that. We'll get Fury Swipes instead. Again, it's mostly going to be used for pickup, not for actually fighting. And it gets a ribbon for getting purified. I'm not going to give it a nickname. You can give it a nickname whenever it's purified. And if you change your mind on that, you can go to the nickname guy that's in this area. But either way, while it is a bit of a shame... Yeah, this is the point where they tell you about Vander, who is on Mount Battle. If you've watched me do Colosseum, you probably remember Mount Battle, because I did the 100 floor challenge thing. I ended up speeding that up for obvious reasons, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong about that. I don't remember for certain. Regardless, though, while it is a bit of a shame to lose the Shadow moves on a Shadow Pokemon, bear in mind it'll actually start getting levels and experience again, because no matter how good the Shadow move is, if you're 30 levels lower, it's not going to be that helpful. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just head on out. I'm going to be a little more liberal with using the, or a little more conservative, rather, with using the healing machines and not doing that too terribly much, unless I need to. Yeah, I remember you. I've trained here myself. Back then I only sought to become more powerful, didn't need another reason. I attain the status now of taking into question my motive for gaining power. I wonder, what am I fighting for? Thanks, Zero. Be sure to scream that to the sky when your girlfriend dies. I think he gave me the same answer even when I said no. There used to be a trainer out here, a bodybuilder, that you can go and fight, but here, unfortunately, there is not one outside, so we'll just grab the full heal and go on inside. For those that are new to Mount Battle, this is basically an area, for one, where you can grind for experience. Since we're talking to Vander, we can still go through here. We only have to fight 4 trainers rather than the full gauntlet. But it's 10 sets of 10 trainers, so you can stop at any point you need to. And for winning each of the areas, because you do have to win the full set of 10 trainers, you'll be given Poke Coupons that can be used for buying some pretty high-end stuff. Primarily, you're going to use it for TMs. They have stuff like Ice Beam, Psychic, Flamethrower, like, you know, all your good, strong, basic attack moves that you just always want to have on your Pokemon. But they also have stuff like the King's Rock, the Scope Lens, that kind of thing too, as well as berries, so those are obviously going to be way more expensive, but the important thing is you can come here to train. Wow, that was much better. Lowering that gauge. But the point is you can come here to train at any time, gain levels, lower heart gauges, so once this is accessible, you can basically, the minute you catch a Shadow Pokemon, you're capable of purifying it, because this is always going to be accessible. For the time being, though, it's just a quick area to run through and do a couple more fights. That actually doesn't look too bad for a string shot animation. Usually it doesn't look that nice. As you can see right there, we also got Supersonic for Ladybug, which is a move to confuse, but it's not too terribly accurate. I think it's like 55 accuracy, so probably wouldn't bank on it too terribly often. We weren't ready. Well, you're also the first trainer. Like, I wouldn't expect that much of a challenge. Also, yes, every trainer that you run into here is basically going to be like, I'm not going to let you go any further. This place should be closed off, but I'm going to fight you anyway. And then right after you beat them, they're like, oh, you were just here to talk to Vander. I shouldn't have wasted my time fighting you. But this dude's got vertical striped purple pants, so he must be cool. And casual. That's what casual dudes wear, right? Vertical striped purple pants. I might like the color purple. Not only do I not own any vertical striped pants, I do not own any purple pants either. I'm not quite that Not quite that fabulous. I could not pull off purple pants. Purple shirts, yes, I'm wearing one right now. But purple pants, might be a bit much for me. But I'm going after that Swablu. I know how dangerous those things can be. I've raised one. I've raised one before in Colosseum. I don't remember if I did that on my playthrough here, but I did do one. A playthrough where I used one. Narrowly survived, and probably gonna get killed by, yep, Bubble, because that hits both targets. Well, maybe not. That didn't do a lot of damage. Survived with one. Nice. We'll use the aerial ace just because it can't miss. Because I think, oddly enough, somehow, Swablu didn't go before Ladybug. I know it's higher level, but not by that much. No, they're the same level, so that's kind of surprising. Jolteon grew to level 15, so naturally we're going to show you Ladybug instead. I believe, as they would say in the Pokemon Stadium games, it held on by the skin of its teeth. Which is impressive, because I don't think Ladybug has teeth. I'm gonna go ahead and let Ladybug faint, unless somehow it doesn't faint in this fight, which would be hilarious. And go ahead and just throw out Poochyena instead. I'm not gonna waste a potion on this. Again, items aren't particularly rare, but like in this particular situation, losing Ladybug's not the end of the world. I can just train Poochyena instead. So it just doesn't make any rational sense to sacrifice that potion. So I won't do that. Bite on Spoink, because I believe that will do super effective damage. And butt shot on that trainer, and there goes Ladybug. At least I got to stick around long enough to get the experience for Jolteon eliminating Spoink, though. Or rather, it will get that one once it gets purified, and then presumably put in the box, never to be seen again. So Poochyena has Shadow Blitz, Shadow Hold, and Poison Fang as well, which is not a bad move, actually. Even on my Sword and Shield, my Scarlet and Violet playthrough, Callie on both of those files runs Ice Fang. Pretty good damaging moves with a chance to inflict whatever status they should inflict. Alright, we beat up all your friends, Vander. In the desert south of here, there's a Cypher research facility. It's been there since the Shadow Pokemon incident. It seems to be abandoned for a long time, but recently I've seen groups of shady characters going in. This is where that research lab is at. Shady characters were seen in the lab in the desert south. Are they somehow connected to Professor Crane's abduction? They very well might be. I think that's our first time actually, like, healing proper. Did I do that once already, maybe? But now, most importantly, Ian called today to inform us that Pokeballs are available at the Gale Pokemart. You won't have to worry about running out anymore. This is your hint to go and buy those right now, because you're actually about to run into 6 different Shadow Pokemon that you can catch one after the other after the other. So even if you picked up every Pokeball and you have not failed to catch, go and buy at least a few of these. There will be Shadow Pokemon in the actual little base as well. Most of them are on the outside. Oops, that's the wrong way. But you really don't want to run out of these and then run across a Shadow Pokemon and be like, oh, I'm out of Pokeballs. Crap. You do get opportunities to catch any Shadow Pokemon you make faint or otherwise just unable to catch later on in the game. But that said, try not to do that. That's going to be more than enough, but we'll go ahead and do it. Technically, I could have gotten one more out of that if I'd bought a set of 10 and then another set of 10, because every time you buy Pokeballs and you buy an amount that's 10 or higher, you get a Premier Ball as a bonus. But you only get one, they don't give you multiple. It like, oh, you bought 30, so here's 3. They don't do that until later in the series. But it's only one Pokeball, and I usually don't use the Premier Balls. I usually just end up keeping them. They're a nice little reminder of things that you bought and got as a free gift but never intend to use. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to meet the Power Rangers. All 6 of them. We're 6 templates, we are. We strike terror throughout the land, for we are the Hexagon Brothers. Little Bill, who are you talking to? Sound off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 5? That's it? 5? Are we missing somebody? That's ridiculously impossible. Let me try this time. Count off. 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys are not very smart. See, what did I say again? There is someone missing. Anyway, enough. He'll return soon enough, I'm sure. Hey, you brat, this is no kiddie playground. We've been away a while, but this here real estate's belonged to Cypher for many a year. If you don't quit scurrying about, we'll have to tell your mommy. If you don't want that to happen, then run along home. Wow, are you related to Jovi by any chance? Nope, they're not gonna let me just ignore them. Alright. Well, like I said, there are quite a few Shadow Pokemon. Each of these guys has one Shadow Pokemon on their team. So, I would recommend saving before fighting any of them, and if you need to pause in between to save, do that as well. But stock up and be ready. So let's do it. I think you only have to technically fight one of them. I don't think it matters which either. But again, why would you not fight them all and get all the Shadow Pokemon? Kind of the point. So first we'll fight Resix. As you can see, these are going to be crunched down / condensed versions of Red 6, Green 6, Purple 6, Blue 6. You get the idea. As you can also see, the Pokemon are getting much higher in level, as that Slugma is 14 and Houndour is 17. The good news is we now have Thunder Wave, so we can just immediately paralyze Pokemon, which will not only make them go slower, but it might just prevent them from attacking altogether. It's super effective. Sure is. That was a lot of damage. Oh good, reverse mode. That means I can get it out of reverse mode and maybe get it out of here before it dies, which it might do anyway. Yep, sure enough, it fainted. Again, this is going back to the, you should probably do every battle that you can. Just Howl to raise attack. I'm not going to do that, though. I'll just go and attack Slugma. As one would expect, usually the ideal strategy for catching Pokemon is, if you've got Paralysis, immediately paralyze the Shadow Pokemon so that it's potentially limited in what it can do, and then just take out every other member of his team until you just have that one Pokemon left. And then you can focus all your energy on it. I'm just going to show off Shadow Hold because I want to see how much damage Bite does before making another decision here. Yeah, not much. Okay. I didn't expect it to because it's dark against dark, but wanted to be sure. So not all the Shadow moves are actually damaging. Shadow Hold prevents Pokemon, or prevents trainers from recalling their Pokemon. They can't escape. There are also other ones that will like sharply lower evasiveness, that kind of thing. So not everything is a damaging move with the Shadow moves, which is kind of a nice little plus there. Let's get Poison Fang attempt here. I know a double attack is usually kind of a dumb thing to do, but That said, he is higher level than both my Pokemon by a fair bit, so we might be okay here. And he can't get poisoned because he's already got a status effect, so that's not going to be an issue either. Ordinary tackle, and I say it is time to start making some attempts here on catching it. At least for early in the game, and watch this one fail now that I've said that. Pretty much if you can get it into yellow, and especially if you can throw a status effect on top of that, then you're probably going to be at least okay at absolute worst. As you just saw, that worked right there. What the? You're not supposed to be tough. I'm gonna go faceplant into the background there, right onto the concrete. Just like I did that one time. Ah, the joys of having sudden seizures. It's so much fun. They're not that sudden, unfortunately. Or I guess it is fortunate. Like, you can kind of feel them coming, if that makes any sense. Depending on the type of seizures, you'll hear a lot of different things from people that are prone of, like, sort of your warning sign of, like, hey, this is about to happen, so, like, be aware that it's about to, is what your body is telling you. And mine kind of basically gives you, I wouldn't say tunnel vision, but, like, you kind of start getting what looks like static, like on an old TV, starts occurring in your peripheral vision, as well as a cold sweat. And apparently, from what I've been told, I also start to look a bit pale as well before it happens. So, like, I get a fair bit of warning before mine occur. And from what I've also been told, it probably looks far more scary than it actually is for the person experiencing it. Because, like, in my case, you just black out and then you wake back up, like, a few seconds later and you feel fine. And meanwhile, everybody else is freaking out. You're like, it's not that big a deal. Like, it happens every now and again. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's try swapping here and seeing if I can get a double kill this round. Okay, that's one. I know what his last Pokemon is, because it's Steel, and it's adorable. Look at how cute it is! I want one. And luckily, I can get one. I just wish it looked as cute when it evolved, because it does not look cute as Celio, and definitely not as Walrein. But it's adorable as this feel. It's another Pokemon that they show a little bit of at the... I believe it's right at the beginning of Destiny Deoxys. Here we'll go with Poison Fang and Thunder Wave to paralyze it. Since Jolteon will be going first, we don't have to worry about getting poisoned, because it'll be too busy being paralyzed. One downside you will run into while fighting these guys, I believe it is Brow 6. The guy that looked like he was orange is actually brown. I know, it looked like it was an orange outfit, but whatever. Uses a ground type, so bear in mind that paralysis will not work on him as it is an electric move. So just be aware that that will happen. Don't waste your energy using Thunder Wave, because it will not work. Oh, and Light. Flinched, very good. I'll use Shadow Blitz because I know it won't be very effective, and Bite. That'll at the very least knock it down into yellow. Oh, it knocked it into red. Even then, I don't think Shadow Blitz is going to do enough damage to kill it. Yeah. It's 7 levels higher, it's not very effective. Yeah, no big deal. We'll just waste a Shadow Hold, I guess, and... just like Beyblade, let her rip. Protecting this character kind of looks like he'd be a Beyblade character, but his hair's not crazy enough, so... Truth be told, I do agree with Icarus. He does look a little bit like Sora from Kingdom Hearts. He looks like a younger Sora. I think it's the spiky hair, though. The spiky hair and, like, at least color-wise, the outfit looks pretty similar to something Sora would wear. So you'll join your party. I'll save again before we get back, but I am going to go ahead and heal my team. As I would like to try and get both Poochyena and... Come on. There we go. Poochyena and Ladybug ready to be purified and get them purified. And as mean as it sounds, get them purified and off the team so that I can make way for all the Pokemon that we are catching / going to be catching. Because as you can see, like, one of them's knocked out, one's at yellow, one's at red. The ones that are in yellow and red are both paralyzed because we just caught them, so, like... This will also pretty much guarantee that there's no way we can lose a fight. Not that that would happen anyway, but now that we've got 2 level 17s that are in full condition again, like, we're pretty much set at this point. I'm going to go ahead and keep Poochie in the front because I know I'm just going to be fighting the Hexagon Brothers in order. I know for a fact that the last one, the green one, while he does have a team of 6, they are the lowest leveled by far. He basically spread his team a little too thin, unfortunately for him. But it will make it easier for Ladybug to survive. So, it just makes the most sense. Just we don't have to deal with that again, in case I fail to catch against his Pokemon. Yeah, that really does look orange to me. I mean, it is an orange-brown, I'll give you that, but it looks more orange than it does brown. At least to me it does. And there we go, there's our Shadow Pokemon, Baltoy. I do appreciate, though, that, like, even though it is brown, it's not just all ground types. Because, like, Hoothoot's flying. I think just flying. Maybe normal flying, but either way. That's so much bite does. Yeah, that's not bad. We might just leave it at that, honestly. I guess theoretically I could try to throw Ladybug out there and use Supersonic to confuse him. Not very heavy damaging, but those were some pretty impressive backflips, I'll give you that. Let's go ahead and get rid of that Hoothoot. And kill. Especially if it's a critical hit. Let's go ahead and swap out in case this catch fails, which it's possible it won't, but we'll see. Go ahead and take a crack at it. Okay, so the catch does occur before the swapping out. Interesting. There is a specific order between like that. Like I know using an item is first and foremost. So it's using an item, then catching, then swapping. But like all three of those will occur before your opponent gets to do anything. The downside to that is, because it occurs before your opponent, the AI will actually know if you, like, for example, had paralysis and then healed it. They'll know before making their decision, so they might just immediately paralyze you again, which is kind of bullcrap, but yeah, that is a thing that they can do. Yeah, I will keep what I've got here. Just from sending Poochyena out, I think it'll be ready to be purified, and then I might immediately just tag it out for Ladybug. Yellow 6. I do wonder what specifically the character limit was in this game. I guess it's technically probably the same as the player character, which would be 7. But no, that doesn't fit because Yellow 6 is 8 characters. Yeah. Oh well, it's not important. Electric Chinchou, huh? Let's get rid of the Electric, just because I really don't want to deal, even though I'm using physical attacks with getting paralyzed left, right, and center by his either Thunder Wave or whatever the paralysis contact thing is. Let's just not let that happen. Jolteon grew to level 16. Trying to learn Thunder Shock. Yes, please, and thank you. Time to get rid of Tackle. That will very much be coming in handy. We got a little sheep. Gold Marie. This was actually a Shadow Pokemon available, well, sort of available in Colosseum. It was Flaffy. It was the evolved form of this, but you could still get this evolution line and ultimately get Ampharos in both this game and in Colosseum, which is kind of cool. Poochyena is more likely than not going to drop from running out of HP, so we'll go ahead and call Poochyena. If it was not at 0%, it is now. We'll let it drop unless they decide to attack Jolteon while we knock out Chinchou here. And then I can swap it out for Marie. Oddly enough, I do think they can still be purified while they're knocked out, oddly enough. I don't know why, but I mean, I guess technically you could do that. Let's see. Shadow Blitz. Go and work on lowering Mareep a little bit. That Shadow Blitz probably will not do enough damage with Ladybug's 9 attack. Really? That's who you targeted? Alright, well, I would have just gone after the obvious target, but what do I know? I think I'm going to attempt to go through Confusion and also see if I can paralyze Mareep, because again, that stupid rule of electric types can get paralyzed, while poisons can't get poisoned, ice ones can't get frozen, fire ones can't get burned. Seems to me that the electric ones are the ones that got burned in that scenario, but whatever. Alright, let's go ahead and take a crack at Mareep. Chinchou, you can just go away. You think that the enemy trainers would try to make an attempt to stop you, as they do with the actual games if you throw a Pokeball where the trainer blocks it, but like, at the beginning I could buy that they don't believe it's a thing, especially the bad guys, of like, oh, they can't take your Pokemon, but like, if they've heard and seen it enough times, at some point they're gonna realize, like, yeah, they could take my Shadow Pokemon. And you think they'd be a bit more careful as a result, but nope, guess not. I hate brats. You hate yourself. Interesting. We try to look busy, but actually we have nothing to do. It's not like we need to worry about any enemies in this desert. Poochyena cannot be purified. I know, would have called that one anyway, but in this one instance, because I don't feel like hiking all the way back, And after we beat up Perp 6 here, it should be good to go. That's probably my favorite name to save these. Perp 6 sounds funny for some reason. And Greasix just sounds nasty. Sounds like he hasn't taken a shower in about 43 years. Alright, was that enough to get the gauge to 0? Looks like it was, but if ever you need to check, you can literally just go to summary and there you go. The door to its heart is about to open, undo the final lock. So, that said, what does he have? Just, oh, well, poison types, yeah, that shouldn't have been that much of a surprise. Let's go and move over to Spheal. Especially considering Spheal might be able to actually do some damage against it. And I'll go for Grimer just because I don't want to get him minimizing to high heaven where I can't hit him anymore. You know, stop that while you can. Poison gas. Well, that's quite rude. It looks cool, though. Animations in this game are pretty solid for all the attacking stuff, all things considered. We'll see if Spheal's attack will be enough to knock him out, because as you saw, I actually didn't pick a target for that one. That's because it's a weaker attack, but it hits both opponents. So we'll see if it does enough to knock Grimer out. If not, I'll probably end up using it again anyway, because I can easily knock out that Tentacool with Thunderbolt. Yep, sure enough. And there's our Shadow Pokemon, Gulpin. It's not one I too terribly care for. I wish I liked poison types more than I did. There's some out there that I like how they look, but they just don't seem to be that effective in the strategies I typically like to employ. Like, I mean, I like how Ekans and Seviper and Arbok, like, all the poison snakes look really cool. Even Zubats, like, as much as I like to dunk on Zubat and its namely because they're everywhere in caves, Crobat's actually not, like, the worst option in the world for a poison type. It's got pretty good, like, type diversity, it's gonna be fast. Something's telling me no to hold off on that. Probably because I'm likely going to heal after this fight anyway, because I'm going to go and purify 2 Shadow Pokemon, but something's telling me not to waste the items. Yep, you use that safeguard to stop me from hitting you with statuses, even though I already got the one status off that I wanted to. Bye, Tentacool. Thanks for contributing. We appreciate it. Thanks for playing. Open flinch. Jolteon's hurt by poison. I guess we'll do Shadow Mist and Bite again. I probably could have done that other Shadow move. I doubt it would have done enough damage to kill him, but yeah, probably would have knocked him into red, but that's low enough. I think we'll be okay to start attempting here. It is really nice, though, that, like, whenever you have a Shadow Pokemon that you're just starting to use, that they give you multiple options of, like, you don't have to just immediately go for an attack move, because there are instances like this where you might not want to. Of like, oh, well, you're looking to waste a turn while you lower their HP, but you can't use anything except attacking moves, so you kind of have to, like, waste an item, waste a Pokeball, waste a turn healing, call, something. But now you at least get a tiny little bonus out of it of lowering their evasion or something. Stopping them from switching out, whatever it might be. Oh, Mama, I've lost! You sure have, Perp 6. You sure have. Ladybug can now be purified, and because I'm not a jerk, I'm not gonna let Jolteon die on the way back. The X attack. Awesome, that is a great item for selling and not using for anything else because it's actually completely worthless. It's one of those items that you use in order to sharply boost whatever it says on the tin. Attack, defense, special, whatever. But yeah, it's used to be sold. If you're gonna do stuff like sharply raise your attack, you're probably just packing Swords Dance on your Pokemon rather than using an item like that. Like, I'm sure, especially if you're, like, playing against friends that know what they're doing, it's fine, but, like, in a main story of the game against bots, you're probably not gonna need that. I guess technically I should have come here first if I was being efficient with my time, because I'm gonna have to go back to the center anyway and swap these out for Claydol and Gulpin, I guess. I think those are the only two. Alright, what does it get back? It gets Psybeam, which is not horrible. And Refresh. About the best thing it's going to learn for the record is probably Silverwind. Oh good, its attack is double digits now. After gaining 2 more levels. But even then, like, it's not worth your time, let's be honest. Even if you get one that's got, like, a good nature, good IVs, it's probably just not worth your time. Poochyena theoretically could be if you didn't pick Brionne. But I find usually with dark types I'm looking for a more defensive Pokemon, and if that's the case, I would be picking Umbreon, not Poochyena. If it was possible to get both Jolteon and Umbreon, I would probably do so in this game, but nope. If it is possible to trade between XD copies, I guess theoretically you could get... You could literally get a full team of Eevees. You could just, like, keep one as an Eevee and then have all the rest be Umbreon, Espeon, Jolteon, Vaporeon, Flareon. For now, I am going to move... Yeah, they're all at 17. I'm going to leave Spheal there, because I actually do want to use Spheal in my team, so I want to get it purified as soon as I possibly can, so it can start gaining those levels. I'm not going to worry about selling that X attack right now. Just next time in a store, I'll hopefully remember. But for the time being, it's not important right now. Alright, Mr. Greasix, with your greasy hair and your greasy fingers. Yeah, this is the guy that's got, like, a bunch of Pokemon, but they're all going to be ridiculously easy to beat. Like, even though I sent out Spheal, I'm not too terribly worried here. I'm not worried that Spheal's gonna get taken down by something that's half its level. there goes one. What? Man, that dude had a butt. Did you see? They like had a very clear butt-shaped indentation on that character model. Apparently this is turning into some Final Fantasy X here. I see somebody did not go to trainer school to know that they should have obviously attacked Spheal, but okay. Whoa, okay, there we go. Any chance that gave him an ice move? Because if it gave him an ice move, we could be in business to start one-shotting these. Ice moves are something that I've semi-recently come around on, but I think it was just because back in the day, there weren't a lot of good ice types. Which was rather unfortunate, especially in Gen 3, where you had all of 3 options to pick from. Which was Regice, Snorunt / Glalie, which was terrible, or the Spheal line, and that was it. Which, that's not pure ice, but it has ice subtyping. And if you didn't want any of those ice types in terms of Pokemon, you're out of luck. Maybe that was just to offset the fact that ice seemed to be a pretty good type as a whole in terms of what it could do offensively and defensively. At the time, other than Dragon, it was the only thing that could really put a pretty good dent into Dragon. One of, like, the 30 things good against Grass as well, sure. And now we can catch an Acorn! Just what everybody was hoping for today. Being able to catch an Acorn. But first we gotta get Mr. Self-Destruct Pineco out of there. Thunder Wave, and I guess technically Water Gun will probably do more damage than Shadow Wave. Likely not by a lot, but still. Let's see how much this does, I guess. Well, it did do more. Again, not by a lot, but it did do more. This might be where I make my first mistake here. That's going to have stab bonus, so it's obviously going to do more. So we'll do that and Shadow Mist, because I don't want to attack it twice in one turn. Probably would have been fine, but I still feel like I made the right call there. That Acorn. And if it doesn't, I guess we'll lower its evasiveness a little bit more. It's like just barely in yellow though. If it had like even 1 or 2 more HP of damage done, it would be in red. And there we go, Seedot was caught. And thankfully, since that's the last of the Hexagon brothers, now we don't have to run back to Gate to heal. Which technically we didn't before, but for the purification's sake. Is we actually have a heal machine just inside on this right one. But first, let's go over here. Again, I think you only have to beat one of them. I could be wrong about that in order to open both these doors, but why would you do that when you could catch all 6 Shadow Pokemon instead of 1? The good news is, after you finish this area, you'll have another opportunity to battle them. In fact, that might actually be as soon as right now, once I leave this room, if we get a little dialogue between them. Yeah, sure enough. Sound off. 1. They're still at this, my god. But the good news is, they figured it out. 6, 7, oh no, wait, they didn't. 8, now there's too many of us. Brothers beware, there might be spies among us. Yep, Among Us. That's the thing that people play, right? They still make the jokes about the sus. So yes, if you did not catch any of the Pokemon that they had, any of the Shadow ones that they had, now's your chance to go and refight them. I'm going to refight them for the experience, but if you missed any Shadow Pokemon themselves, this is your chance to get them. Yep, still on Spiel. Alright. We'll start with the blue one this time, because why not? I'll play with you all you want. You only get one additional fight against these guys, for the record. In this area, at least. Because again, you can't just outright miss a Shadow Pokemon forever in this game. One way or another, it will turn up. It might not show up till post-game, but it will turn up. But we here for the cash money. When I got to the end of this area in the previous stream, I was at level 20 for Jolteon, so that'll give me a bit of an idea of what I should be aiming for now that I'm at 17 with Jolteon. Good old Beldum, yeah. They will replace whatever they lost with something else, I believe. Because I don't think he had that Beldum before. Which, honestly, that's not a terrible choice to have. Like, at least it gives you a little bit of diversity with your types. Have a Steel type in there instead. Plus, even though that Beldum died, defensively, Steel's pretty good. Fire and Ground, I think those are the two big ones I usually utilize against it, is Fire and Ground. Feels like Ground is strong against almost everything. It's like it's good against electricity, it's good against steel, it's good against fire. I like your karate pose, sir. It's very nice. It's a rematch against Re6. This should be over extremely quickly, seeing as Spiel will actually be able to use Water Gun here. Also, now it has Mud Slap, speaking of ground moves, but that's not too terribly strong. I don't remember if Numel gains a subtype for ground yet, or if it has to evolve, but either way, that's gonna hurt. I don't even remember what that does. Does that just, like, remove the... Oh, no, that, I guess, does a small amount of damage and chance to poison? I thought that was one of those, like, oh, this is a buff killer type things. But nope, I guess not. Thud. Get out of here. Yeah, I guess it helped to while away some time. If I leave and heal and come back, will they rematch me first? I'm pretty sure you only get 2 cracks against them right now. Which, again, at this point in the game is more than enough. Yeah, see, even when I came back, they're not refighting me. So yeah, just 2 attempts, but that's fine. Let's fight the grease. And as we all know, the best way to get rid of grease is pouring it down your kitchen drain. As my neighbors will tell you. Over and over and over again. For anybody that didn't realize that was a joke, please do not pour grease down your sink. I shouldn't have to say that, yet here I am saying it. Bye, Oddish. I'm glad you got to join in the fight for all of, like, 2 seconds before you just immediately got annihilated. The power of poisonous splinters. The other nice thing about Thunder Shock is even though it's not very effective against Shroomish, it means I don't have to hit it physically and worry about effect score anymore. At least not ones that are at, like, laughably low levels like that one was. Thud. King of Self-Destruct. Well, one of them anyway. Will it survive before it gets hit by steel? No. Alright, Mr. Greasix, back to your home country. If you're asking where it is, you probably already know the answer. Because that's how jokes are made. It's Greece, get it? That's the joke. He's from Greece, because it's Greasix. Yeah. Jokes are always best when explained, especially when they're obvious. Alright, Mr. Perpetrator, let's see what you've got. Still the same things here, but maybe you changed it up with something new. I'm still going to be going after that Grimer first, so he can't minimize his way to victory. No minimize for you. Dealt with that too many times in Pokemon games. Every time I see Grimer and Muck, that's the one thing I'm worried about most. It's not like, oh, it's going to take lots of hits to kill them. It's, oh, they're just going to keep using Minimize over and over until they literally cannot get hit. Thanks for playing, Tentacool, and then get out of here. You think they would have given him an Ekans or an Arbok rather than a Tentacool? I know it's a poison type, but like they could have given that to Blue Six. Varied up the team a little bit more, but it's early in the game. They probably want to make it to where like everything's roughly the same type. Mash the A button for victory. After we're done with the rest of the peons here, I'll show off something kind of interesting that I've alluded to earlier. Did he just say something? Oh yeah, no, he said he had lots of time. I thought for a minute he said he had no time, and it's like, A, I'm pretty sure he said the opposite earlier, and B, it's like, if you're busy, then what are you doing just hanging around out here, figuring out how to count to 6? Gotta get rid of that static before I get paralyzed by it. Magma. I don't think he had that earlier, actually. Pretty sure he didn't. Magnemite's not a bad choice. It can't evolve into Magnezone at this point, but I've run one of these before. In Moon, I believe it was. Was it Sun and Moon? Now I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think it was Sun and Moon. Because I actually was looking for one and found a shiny one, and I'm like, okay, well, that's I was thinking about running one before, but that's just all the more reason to. See, I've got a shiny Magnezone on that file somewhere. It was one that I always wanted to run, but it just never seemed to vibe with the team that I was using at the time very well. Alright, that just leaves Mr. Brow 6. Because he knitted its brow. Oh yeah, he added one to his team too. So I think half of them added something to their team. I mean, to be fair, like, we literally did just beat them. It would be weird for them to, like, be able to just replace it that quickly. Just like, you take a trainer's Pokemon, walk through a door, heal, come back, and immediately they're just like, oh, I've already replaced it, here we go. Sure, you could do that at a PC, but like, if they went to do that A, we would have seen them, and B, why would they not have just had that extra Pokemon to begin with? See what I mean about, like, the animations going faster? Like, it showed right there in particular, like, the minute his HP bar hit 0, it didn't show the full animation of, like, getting hit and going back into place. It just, like, cut the animation prematurely and just was like, no, he's dead. It's fine. So yeah, the thing I wanted to show off is the fact that, yeah, you can make pretty good money by refighting trainers. $14,000 already. And that's after buying, like, a couple thousand worth of Pokeballs, too. You can run low on money in this game, as you can in any game, but if you refight trainers, you will find that that is substantially less of a problem than normal. Alright, with them all beaten, let's actually go through the area. You're not supposed to be in here. Well, you're not supposed to be hanging from the ceiling, yet you were. And now that we know from last stream that apparently there's not too many Shadow Pokemon in the facility, which is a bit odd, but I wouldn't have expected every trainer to have them, but in Colosseum, pretty much, if you ran into, especially one of those guys that dropped from the roof, it was pretty much guaranteed that they were going to have one. And about the only people that wouldn't would be the scientists, the guys in the lab coats. And even then, they might have one. Here, there's like, I think there was like 2 or 3 total. It's pretty small. There's not a high amount of them in here anymore. Which sort of makes sense, because story-wise it does serve a different purpose in this game. You came here much later in the original game. Yeah, just do your 14 damage. Go, level 19. And get rid of that Duskull. Alright, Corla, get out of here. You should have had a Corsola, it would have fit your name very well. I believe this is locked. No, it is not. Okay. Hi. Where'd you get in from? The door that I'm still standing in, that's where I got in from. No, I just, like, burrowed underground and just dug a hole through the side of the wall, like... Wow, what a team of gigantic threats you have here. Clamperl and Corefish. I went for Clamperl because it's a bit more defensive than Corefish, if I remember right. That's probably the most threatening thing you have, and that says a lot, man. Which is less about it being threatening and more the potential for it to be. But yep, oh, I thought that was going to kill Corefish, but nope. He survived long enough to make sure his defense was boosted, so the next turn he would absolutely die. At least you can cut the scientists a little bit more slack, because, like, the scientists are not specifically there to battle people that get in. Plus, I would much rather him have a team like that than a team full of usually steel types that are harder to get through. I just read it right there watching it back of why, what did I do to deserve this? Like, well, it's a long list and we're short on time, so... Spheo can now be purified. Oh, I'm tempted to go do that now. Yeah, I think I will. I know we just got there, but I wanted to gain experience. I wanted to get... I think it gets an ice move back, which would be really nice to have. And we're not too terribly far in, so if there was a time to do it, it would be now. If any of my others get to be to the spot where they can be purified, though, I will probably ultimately pass on purifying them immediately until we get out of that area. But since this is one I want to use, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Noom. It does feel like the walking speed of the player character, Michael, by the way, is his canonic name. I know a protagonist with like a normal first name. How weird. But it does feel like his walking speed is just a tiny bit faster than Wes from the previous game. He's got shorter legs because Wes is... I don't know older by how much, but he definitely is older than Michael for sure. Aurora Beam, there we go, there's the ice move. What else does he get? Charm? Eh, that's alright. Couple levels. Body Slam, yes, please, get rid of Charm. I'm not big on that. I guess I could have also gotten rid of Mud Slap, but Body Slam's pretty strong for a normal move. Chance for paralysis and pretty good damage. Nope, no nickname for Spheel. And though I do want to use it, first of all, I'll be taking that antidote. Thank you. I will go ahead and continue to work on getting Shadow Pokemon purified. How are they doing, by the way? There's not another one that needs to be purified right now. Nope, we're good. Just want to make sure while I'm already here. Nah, we can heal on the way back. But yeah, I am very appreciative that they upped the running speed. Again, it's not by a lot, and I could be wrong, and they could actually be walking slash running at the exact same speed, but it feels like Michael moves a little bit faster than Wes did. Entirely possible I'm wrong, though. Door's locked. Needs an ID card. Yeah, I got that the first time. Just because I tried to walk to the side instead of stepping back. This is another one of those reasons why it's a lot faster to go through this area, because remember, you would have had to go back to the machine to save every single time that you wanted to, so potentially between every single fight that you caught a shadow Pokemon and was like, oh, I don't want to make sure that I lose another Pokemon and have to go back even farther. You have to travel all the way back and save and go all the way forward. Now you can just save and keep moving forward. We're going after Tailo because it's the bigger threat of the two, in my opinion. I run Swallow quite a bit on Gen 3, so I know how good it is. Blah. Doduo, however, not so much. If you are looking for a good, mostly comprehensive playthrough of this game, I would recommend Chugga Conroy. I was reminded of that because he uses Dodrio, which you can catch in the game pretty late. I believe you get it as a Dodrio as well, but it might be the worst Pokemon that he's ever put on his team, just in terms of, like, he wanted it to be useful, but he just could not get it to stay alive, do enough damage, anything. It just was not happening. Part of that might have been the fact that it was a Dodrio. Part of that might have been the fact that it just was... It arrived on the team so late, just by virtue of when you get it, that it might have just been a little too late for it. Cypher R&D Misak. Oh, right, you're this guy. Those freaking lilies, they take forever to kill. I'm just gonna go after the Anorith first, because they're easier to beat. For anybody that doesn't know much about these two, they're basically both fossil Pokemon. The Anorith is more of an offense-based, and the Lileep is a defense one. I think it's pretty much universally accepted that Lileep is the better of the two. But they also have really weird types, like Armaldo, which is what Anorith evolves into, is rock and bug or water and bug. It's some weird combination you wouldn't expect. But as a result of their weird type combinations, Lileep just has a bunch of stuff that it's resistant to, and it wouldn't take a lot of damage even with normal or super effective hits anyway. The good news is it's at least slow. Nice, that was like a full bar right there, maybe even a little bit more. And hopefully this will be enough. No, not quite. And it also has Roar, same as Poochyena, which I guess isn't that big of a surprise. I know Houndour and Poochyena kind of get compared a lot. They're different gens, but, you know, Dark-type dog has a lot of, like, typically strong attack and not great defense. Physical attack, special attack's kind of eh. Big difference being one is fire and dark and one is just dark. Okay, I won't disturb you. I thought about saving, but eh. We'll do it after this fight, maybe. Was that Swine of a Shadow Pokemon? I don't remember. No, it was not. Okay. Thunder Shock on Shuppet, Ember on Swinub. Because even though it doesn't look at Swinub as part ice, and the other part of it is ground, so Thundershock wouldn't have worked on it. Ember probably won't be enough to kill it, but we can just use another Ember and bite. Yeah, the spinner hack is what it was. It was a biter! Well, we'll deal with Hider in a second. Let's see how much this does first. Oh, one-shot it. Nice! Okay, well, that solves that problem then. It's going to be pretty much ready to be purified here in a second. Because calling, it's going to drop the bar by pretty much 1. Thunder Wave, call. Yep. I think I'll actually move it out of that slot, because I think just walking around in here will be enough to get its gauge down to 0. So I'll swap it out for something else. Hider may be unable to move, but it can move for now. I'm gonna go with a single bite, and I think outside of that, we'll go ahead and just... Oh, another item, okay. I'll grab that in a second. This is the weird catch-22 you run into with leveling like this. Ooh, that was close. It's because you don't want to be too strong, which is also part of the reason I'm keeping the Teddy Ursa. I guess I should have mentioned that. At the level it is it's not going to be too terribly strong. At this point, there is no reason why I wouldn't go for it. We'll just call him. That's about as low health as you can get without using something like False Swipe. Paralyzed. Yep. All good. Here's a picture of Ball Toy. Anyway, moving on. Alright, what do you got for us? Another X attack. Fabulous. I'll treasure it always. I don't remember how many Shadow Pokemon we had when we left here. I think it was somewhere between 11 and 13. Oh, there's a Revive. It'd be pretty hard to miss that. I figured someone was going to drop from the ceiling. And now we get my favorite quirk of anybody that whenever they speak of using the phrase so. I so don't get it. Why would we refuse an offer so wonderful as this? You are so mean and closed-minded, I won't even try to understand how marvelous it is. This is all so your fault. He is oh so cross because you were so rude to him. Yeah. Just, ugh. So, yep, that's one of the area leaders, as one might have surmised. It looked like she fell on that last step. She, like, dropped a little bit and then went out of sight. Naps, was it? You have my sympathy. What a nightmare it must be to have someone like her as your boss. Yeah. There's the person dropping from the ceiling. I think it was the guy around that area in Colosseum that was like, are you surprised that I dropped from the ceiling? And that's like one of the last spots. That room we were just in a second ago was the last room. So it's like, no, not really. That you're like the 20th guy to drop from the ceiling. So no, not terribly surprised. Bite on Ralts. I'm actually going to do Shadow Blitz, because even though Mud Slap is super effective, so is Shadow Blitz, and I feel like Shadow Blitz probably does more damage. Even without same type attack bonus. Bagon, it's so cute! It just wants to learn how to fly. And one day it will be able to. Well, maybe not that, guys, but... Any of the ones I train will. Just let Jolteon do its thing and keep chipping away at Voltorb here. And we have another one, Numel. You keep doing the Lord's work over there, Mr. Voltorb. Probably enough to where I don't want to do that a second time. Well, while we're waiting for my turn to pop up, I'm going to be a sneaky little cheat and see if Numel is... Yep, it is Fire and Ground, so using Thunder Wave is not going to work on it. Numel flinched. Good for it. Sand Attack. Shadow Blitz should be okay because it's not going to be very effective. Here, have some sand. Enjoy that. Yeah, I'll probably start trying to throw Pokeballs at it, I guess, and just keep doing the Shadow Attack. Until something sticks. Using Mud Slap is just a tiny bit too much of a risk for me. Frames, I see you freaking out over there. Stop that. Frames, do not betray me. Oh, I do have my phone nearby. Let me just take that, and perfect. Let's see if that'll make it go away. I guess since we did just capture Shadow Pokemon, we should probably save. Keep watching the frame rate to see if it's gonna come back or not. It's still debating as of right now if it wants to. I don't have any other things open. Nope. I recommend healing before getting that chest, because the minute you walk over there, you're gonna get ambushed. Beat Mr. Digor, Mr. Wedge Picker. Yeah, I think I'm going to end here just long enough to stop the stream and restart it, because usually stopping it and restarting it will fix the frame issue, and might also restart my computer. It does feel a little bit warm, so maybe letting it cool off long enough during the restart will fix that issue. So, I will be back in either a couple seconds, and then I'll retry it, and if it's still dropping frames, then I'll do a proper shutdown and turn back on, in which case it'll be about 5 minutes. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. Alright, I will see you guys in, at worst, a few minutes, but we'll do a quick test here and see what happens.